What's up guys, Kyle here again, and welcome back to another episode of FAQ'N Friday. First off, I have to address something. I am super disappointed in a lot of you guys, and that's not something that I take lightly. Why am I disappointed? Because I quoted the movie Dumb and Dumber, and I got multiple comments from you guys stating that I mixed up the difference between Austria and Australia. And I even had one viewer tell me that Dumb and Dumber sucked as a movie. So Joseph, go ahead and hit that unsubscribe button for me. I just can't believe that many people didn't know the Dumb and Dumber reference. So I'm a little bit bummed out by that because it is one of my favorite comedy movies. And yes, it is a great comedy movie. It is a classic at this point. And if you disagree with me, you're just wrong. So get used to being wrong. I feel a lot better now. Second point before we get going, guys, is I've been spamming you with information about my new second drum channel. I have only posted one video on there because, like I said, that is of course gonna take backseat to this channel and my guitar gear stuff because that is my main passion. But I just finished filming yet another drum deals video, and that video is live right about now. So go ahead and go over to my drum channel if you're a drummer interested in drums, restoration, hardcore and metal drumming, anything like that, and check it out if you don't mind. I would greatly appreciate it. A lot of you guys have come from this channel over to the drum channel and subscribed, so we're already at like 200 subscribers over there, so I really appreciate you guys, and I promise the content will be a little bit more plentiful soon. I've been catching up on a lot of stuff on this channel, so I appreciate all you guys who have supported the drum channel on top of supporting this channel. Thank you very much. And with all that out of the way, let's get to your guys' questions. Alan asks, have I ever tried Zilli cabs? Thank you for your question, Alan. And no, I actually have not tried Zilli cabs before. I've never even been in the same room as one. I know that they are really popular, and I know that a lot of YouTubers and modern metal guys have gotten their hands on Zilli cabs and have said a lot of great things. And Zilli and I actually got in contact with each other and talked about making a cab. Now, I haven't gone through with that yet just because it's hard for me to justify buying a brand new cab when I keep getting, you guys have seen a lot of my posts about all the ridiculous deals I've been getting on cabs and stuff lately. So it's kind of hard for me to justify buying a brand new cab when I'm getting these used ones at a fraction of the price. But once I get a bunch of videos and stuff done with those other cabs and probably sell them off, once I sell a few of those others off and make some space, I will definitely grab a Zilli cab and get it here on the channel. What are your guys' thoughts on Zilli cabs? Have you played them? Do you own them? If you own them, what model do you own? What speakers are in them? I'm very curious to hear from you guys. And if you guys want me to review a Zilli cab badly, or you guys want me to check one out badly, let me know, because again, I use your guys' comments and interest to gauge what I should put on this channel. Zilli cabs are of interest to me, so if they're of high interest to you, and you guys let me know that down in the comments, then I will definitely prioritize it. And also, if you do want me to get a Zilli cab on the channel, you can greatly help that by joining my Patreon down below in the description of this video. Michael Mills says, hey Kyle, I'm a massive fan and happy subscriber. My question is, have you ever tried and or played any vintage Japanese guitars? I've seen you with the vintage white Edwards LP, which I think that's the one I was gonna buy recently off Reverb. But have you ever tried an Orville by Gibson Greco, Tokai, or Area Pro 2? I own several of each and I swear by them as they are amazing guitars. Thanks. Thanks for the comment and the kind words, Michael. I have never gotten into the vintage Japanese Les Paul copy market. I was really interested in them for a while when I was really getting into the Gibson stuff, but the prices on a lot of them were basically the same as the Gibson counterparts at the time that I was looking at them. I know a lot of the allure before that, before the prices had started to climb, was they were cheaper than their Gibson counterparts, but a lot of people felt that they were the same quality, if not better. So needless to say, I was very, very interested in checking them out, but unfortunately, once the prices rose, and on top of the prices rising, unfortunately, it seems like very muddy water trying to figure out what models are the ones to get and what models are the ones to avoid, and what years they moved production from Japan over to China, because I know a lot of those brands have moved their production elsewhere, or they started making cheaper models, but again, it was really kind of hard to distinguish what models were the good ones, what models weren't. And then you have the whole Orville, and then Orville by Gibson, and then certain years of Greco were, it was too much for me when I was already really interested in Gibson stuff on top of the amps and everything. I just didn't, as much as I tried to get to like dive down the rabbit hole of the Japanese vintage Les Paul copy market, it just never really caught in my brain. Like my brain never really grasped it, which is funny because I am the type of person that likes to get down into the weeds on a lot of this stuff. But I just never really got into it enough to really take the plunge and start buying any of the vintage Japanese guitars, mainly because they're really hard to find deals on, where Gibsons, I could find deals on Les Paul Studios and Les Paul Traditionals and Classics all day long, where if I didn't like the guitar, I could turn around and sell it for what I paid for it easily, sometimes even sell it for more. And that's basically the only time I will buy a guitar. And that's been like that for a long time. I've discussed this with you guys a couple of times. Usually the only time I buy anything gear related is when I can break even on it very quickly if I need to, or I can resell it at a little bit of a profit. That just keeps me from impulse buying things I don't need and losing a bunch of money. And it's worked out really well for me so far, but that is really hard to do when it comes to that vintage Japanese Les Paul copy market. So unfortunately, I've never really dove into it. And I don't have any plans on doing it now because the prices just seem to keep going up and the availability just seems to be, they seem to be harder and harder to come by. So that Edwards Les Paul kind of just fell into my lap via a trade. I ended up trading something that I didn't pay very much for directly for the guitar, and it was a really good deal in my favor. My plan was to turn around and resell the Edwards, but of course, as soon as I played it, I fell in love with it, and I now have absolutely zero plans of selling that guitar, and I've actually moved a couple of other guitars in its place because it is that good. Because it really is a fantastic guitar, and I really love it. It's sitting right in front of me, so I really love it. I'm glad I did that trade. I'm glad I finally got to try an Edwards because that's the first Edwards I've ever played. So I will do a dedicated video on the Edwards guitar at some point here in the near future if you guys would like. But as far as your question, no, I have never tried any of the vintage Japanese Les Paul copies. Trace Youngs asks, during your awesome video of the KHE amp switcher, the Badlander took a dive. Do Mesa amps have quality problems? Thanks for your question, Chase, and no, Mesa amps don't have quality problems. You guys know I'm not the biggest Mesa amp fan in the world, but if there's one thing I can say, it's that Mesa amps are built very well, are very reliable, and pretty rugged. And usually if something goes wrong on one of those, it is a user error of some sort. I know in the 90s they had some problems with some of the tremoverbs, with some of the, I forget, one of the electronic pieces inside the tremoverbs would go bad and had to be replaced, and there was like a factory recall. But other than that, I don't really recall reading too many issues about Mesa amps having reliability issues or having parts that were known to go bad. And my experience with Mesa is I've never had one break on me. I've owned a ton of Mesas and I've never had one go down in flames or have anything go wrong with it while it was in my possession. So the Badlander turned out to be a bad power tube that ended up taking out the fuse, the protection fuse. So I switched the power tubes, put a new fuse in it. It's good to go. I had actually switched in some JJ E34L power tubes recently, and one of those tubes unfortunately went bad not long after I swapped it in, so I just put the stock tubes back in the amp and it's good to go. But yeah, I'm not sure if you guys have any experiences of Mesa amps breaking on you. I know that they're notoriously kind of hard to work on because there is so much stuff built into them, but as far as the actual reliability, I've never owned one that's broken on me. I've only bought, I think I've bought 2 amps that have been broken that I've had Mike Wagner repair, and it was like something crazy happened where it definitely was user error that caused it. But me and pretty much everybody I know, I've never had any issues with the reliability of Mesa amps. Now, of course, I'm sure you're gonna get a bunch of the morons who are gonna pile in here and be like,
oh, Gibson quality control is gonna tank Mesa quality control.
Yeah. Sure it is, man. You keep thinking that and you keep telling all your friends that, and smart people will keep not listening to you. Michael Weber asks, hey Kyle, do you ever get stuck with gear that won't sell or had to take a hit and sell for much less than you bought? Or do you make out good on every gear flip? Thanks for your question, man. That's actually a good question. I definitely do have pieces here and there that just don't sell for whatever reason. I do a lot of research before I buy anything to make sure I'm getting it at a good enough price that I can at least break even on it, but I always try to make a little bit if I can. But with that being said, yeah, I've got 2 pieces that have been sitting around for quite a while right now that I just don't understand why anybody hasn't bought them, because I even have them priced lower than average market prices and they're still sitting. A lot of that is, you know, Facebook will just tend to push your listings down in the results of a particular category or a search. Even if you renew it, So you basically just have to delete it and repost it all over again as if it had never been posted. And usually when I do that within a few days of an item not, of an older item, I delete it, I repost it, somebody ends up commenting or messaging me and buying it. So I just need to be a little bit more proactive when it comes to that stuff because I do tend to let things sit. But overall, yeah, I've definitely had pieces that have sat for a long time. Luckily, not so much lately, but it is frustrating because not only is it sitting there taking up space, but it's sitting there taking up money. You've got money wrapped up into whatever piece of gear that it is, and it's nice to get the money back out of those things. And there have definitely been items where I have lowered it back down to what I purchased it for, even though when I bought it, I figured it was a surefire way to trade up or to, make a couple bucks on it. Sometimes you just have to break even. I pretty much refuse to take a loss. I'm very stubborn, so like even if something sits for an extra 2 months, I won't take a loss on it. I'll just let it sit there. That's just how my brain works. Like I literally can't, patience is a virtue with me, and there gets to be points where I do start to get really impatient with something not moving. But again, like I also am very stubborn and I refuse to take a loss on something, especially when I know I have it priced right, and I just need to wait for the right person to be in the market for it or the right person to see it. And really, that's never steered me wrong. So yeah, patience is a virtue. Doing your research and making sure that you're buying things, even if you're buying for yourself, if you want to try it out, but you know that there's a good chance that you may not like it and you want to resell it and at least break even, just do a lot of research across as many platforms as you can to see what the average sold prices are for. And as long as you're on the lower side or under the low side of the average sold prices, then it's pretty much hard to lose. You just basically have to wait for the right buyer if it doesn't move. And be patient. Patience is absolutely a virtue when it comes to this stuff. So I've taught myself patience. Even though I am an impulsive person, I have taught myself to be patient, and really it has worked out in the long run. So that's an excellent question, and I appreciate questions like that, man. That was a fun one. Final question of the day comes from Kid NATO, and he asks, Kyle, do you ever find yourself tempted to just say, screw this, and just take a modeler to a gig? It was not an option for me when I was gigging, and I love my tube amps, but that convenience is looking tough to argue with. Thank you for your question, Kid NATO, and the answer is absolutely not. I have never once been tempted to take just a modeler to a gig. It hasn't even crossed my mind. And it's not because I think that modelers suck, it's because part of the fun of playing shows for me is taking out my whole rig the way that I have it set up and the way that I, have dialed it in. That's part of the fun for me, is taking that out and actually finally being able to play it live. I really don't mind moving big, heavy objects whatsoever when it comes to playing shows. It doesn't even factor into my thoughts as to what I take to a gig, which is why you will frequently see me with a giant Mesa oversized 4x12 cab, 2 different heads, 2 different guitars walking in the door to whatever show that is we're about to play, just because I love packing up my rig and taking it out and finally getting to put it on display after months of having messed around with cab, speaker combinations, different guitars, different overdrives, and kind of, really feeling like I've got things right. Playing a live show is the ultimate payoff of that tone search for me, getting to display that tone live with my band, and that's all part of the experience for me. So yeah, modelers have never factored into my thoughts as far as local shows or touring shows. Now, where they have factored in is flying out to a show, which has not yet happened, but like I said, Bushido Code has definitely been in talks of playing in Europe. Originally, we were gonna try to do it this summer, but it's looking like it's probably not gonna happen, so it may be next summer. But yeah, when we do go over to Europe, I absolutely will be building an entire pedal board rig, and it may be a modeler, it may just be a preamp pedal, but that is the only time that I've ever thought like, hey, I should probably bring something a little bit more portable. And the reason being is the first time I went to Europe, I didn't even have an amp, and I literally had to borrow other band stuff every single night. And that was probably, I dreaded every night on tour having to go up and ask people if I could use their stuff. And it's really a big part of what made me turn into a gear nerd, because I hated that feeling, man. I hated oh, great set, you guys were awesome, can I use your stuff? Like, that's so disingenuous, and to me, that leaves a mark when people do that to me. It really does. Like, I'll remember certain bands when they're like, oh, hey man, you guys were awesome, you guys were so good. Do you mind if I borrow your cab? Like, I don't know why, man. It just kills me. I know that bands travel. I know that they don't bring their own stuff, but like, I would have a lot more respect to somebody if they just came up and they were just like, hey man, didn't get a chance to catch your set. To be honest with you, we're traveling and we don't have cabs to use. Would you mind if I used your cab? Because that is much more genuine than somebody coming up and blowing smoke up your ass just so they can butter you up to ask you to use your gear. So I don't ever want to be that person again, and luckily I don't think I'll ever have to be that person again. And I understand people who might be in that position, but I think that there's a better way to go about it than the disingenuous compliment to the band followed by, can I use your gear? But anyways, yeah, that all being said, those are the reasons, those are the only types of situations where I could find myself using a modeler with a power amp on a pedal board. Otherwise, no, the thought never even crosses my mind to bring a modeler to a show because it's a little bit lighter and a little bit easier. I absolutely don't mind the labor involved to move my rig to the show, pack it up in a van, pack it up after we're done. None of that stuff really bothers me. As long as I get to play the rig that I want to play, I get to play my tone the way that I've been working on it and constructing it for however long. Again, that's like the ultimate payoff of kind of being a tone chaser, is finally getting to get your rig out in front of an audience, playing with your band and really testing it out, seeing how it sounds, and reaping the benefits of all of that tone chasing. So, with that being said, you guys had a great group of questions this week, and I'm really curious to hear your responses to my responses. Put your responses down in the comments below, and also put your questions for the next episode down in the comments below as well. That way, I've got lots of cool questions, much like I had this week, in order to put on the next show. I always really enjoy these episodes, and I love getting to interact with you guys. I haven't been replying to comments that much lately, and that's just because I've been really busy going out and getting new gear and getting some other stuff done for the channel. So I apologize. I will be replying to your comments a lot more coming up. So thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you guys for viewing. If you do want to support the channel more than just clicking on that like button and subscribing if you haven't already, down in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link, my Patreon membership page, and the Belligerent Amateur community, including my Facebook group and Discord server. Go down there, check that stuff out. There's also some other affiliate links down there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.